Federica. Thank you. So the meeting will be recorded so that we can also upload it on YouTube or our channel, so that other people that cannot join will may join later, seeing the recording. So welcome everybody to this FutureEnzyme event. It is actually probably one of the last events we are doing before the end of the project, which will happen this month. But before closing, we wanted to share with scientists, researchers, industries also some of our key insights into the environmental and social impact of our project innovation. In particular, the objectives of today's webinars is to share best practices, but also challenges and possible solutions that we encounter when doing our social and environmental assessment of our project, which is let's say low medium TRL project, so not so industrialized project. For that we were missing some data. We had some issue that you will see later, but we also found some solution. During this webinar, we will have a short introduction from our project coordinator, but then you will also hear about 2 methodologies for impact assessment, life cycle assessment for the environmental part, and the choice experiment for the social part. But most importantly, you will learn also how we use them in combination in a case study with our detergent innovation. So I will leave now the floor to our project coordinator, Manuel Ferrer Martinez, and I'll go to change the slides. And okay, Manolo, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so thank you, Sarah, and welcome to the Italbiotec team for organizing the webinar in a topic that is really relevant to all European projects, especially where industry is implicated. And then, thanks for the introduction. So as Sarah already mentioned, so I'm the coordinator of the FutureEnzyme Project, but I'm representing a consortium that is formed by 8 academic groups that are listed in the slide, with 2 clusters and 6 industry, 3 large scale one and the other medium size and small. So you can go to the next, Sarah. Yeah, and basically the FutureEnzyme project is a project that uses consumer product already in the market. So this is an advantage, and I will tell you why it's an advantage later on. And the idea of the project is just to develop enzymes with which we can make greener and more sustainable this consumer product that the consumer already use. And then we focus on a detergent, as already Sarah mentioned. We also focus on textile and also cosmetic ingredients. And then we are using this sector, or we are targeting this sector, because we know that for the production and consumption, a lot of water, a lot of energy, and a lot of chemicals are used. And we know, and our industry partner agree that using enzymes, we can offer environmentally friendly alternatives. The next one, Sarah? Yeah. So which are the main challenges, which are relevant also for the LCA studies? So the first one is all the products are different. So you can imagine the different detergents here. For example, each of these detergents may have different ingredients or different storage conditions. So the problem or the challenge is to find the right enzyme for each of these products. And then we need to find enzymes that are effective and sustainable and make the product sustainable, but also cost efficient, because detergents are not an expensive consumer good. So we need to make the enzyme effective and also cost efficient. It's cheap enough to be included. Next one, Sarah. So the solution that we offer. So the solution are that we are working with product in the market. Our industry partner, they know what we need to do so to make greener and more sustainable. And the only thing that we need to find is to discover and also later on optimize the enzyme based on this product needs and characteristics. And then also we develop fermentation and processing platform to create a scalable and secure method to produce the enzymes with which we can make later on our product and processes. So the next one, Sarah. And then I will briefly describe the four products that we have in the project. The first one is a liquid laundry detergent. I will not explain in detail because probably ITB group will better describe later. So the idea is that we found, or the idea is to find enzyme that need to be integrated into the detergent. The idea is that the enzymes are able to degrade a lot of chemicals or a lot of stains, that are in our textile. This is not easy, just to find an enzyme that do the job for all the stains that we can find in the textile. And also that enzyme, as I mentioned before, is stable in the different storage conditions. You can find it detergent you can store at 4 degrees, at 10 degrees, and but also in other countries that is warmer, and also in different washing conditions. So the next one, Sarah. The next product is a chemical-free textile. So during the manufacturing of textile, normally they are using the companies, or our industry partner is using the so-called spinning oils to make the textile in different conformations. And normally to remove later on this spinning oil, so we normally require a lot of amount of hot water, and the idea is just to use enzymes to degrade these chemicals, so they are easily removed to the textile, just to make the further processes more efficient. The next one. And another product is a mini hyaluronic acid. So normally the hyaluronic acid needs to be fragmented in a medium size to be integrated into our cosmetics. So the idea, or at least our industry partner, what is asking is to make shorter fragments, which are difficult to obtain by the conventional method. And the idea is to use enzyme to cut this hyaluronic acid, that is a large molecule, to a mini hyaluronic acid to be later on integrated to the cosmetic formulation. And the final one, product, the next one, is just to use enzyme themselves as a product, not only to make these 3 previous products greener and more sustainable, but also to offer to other customers. So we can target different sectors. So for this reason, we have an industry partner that is doing fermentation and optimizing the protocol to spread this enzyme. So the next one, Sarah. And the idea is that we implemented a number, I'm not going to go into detail, quite high number of bioprospecting tool, artificial intelligence tool, and also immobilization solution. We know the requirement. We can set enzyme that has characteristics fitting to the requirement, and then we can filter to have the final one that, going into our product. And the next one, Sarah. And relevant to the LCA. So the question is, finding an enzyme and producing an enzyme has associated a carbon footprint. I mean, not only the product themselves, I mean, the cosmetic, the detergent, or the hyaluronic acid is also screening and producing the enzyme. And here you can see that in total about half kilogram of CO2 per single enzyme. So this is why in our consortium, so we try to optimize all the processes. So we just to go down with this carbon footprint of the enzyme, because the production of the enzyme itself is also an additive to the carbon footprint of our product and processes. So the next one, Sarah. And well, so FutureEnzyme is also, or we take care of our eco design and the LCA. So we are aware about the importance of eco design for our product, or at least those that we offer to the consumer, not only the durability, reusability, or reparability of our product and processes, the maintenance, the circularity, the recycling, and sustainability, but also we try to make a product more energy and resource efficient. We are setting rules for carbon and environmental footprint, because some of the process that we offer or we target are completely new. So we are creating the baseline for future development, and also we are limiting the generation of water, of waste. So the next one, Sarah. And this is just one example. Using an enzyme, we reach about, in theory, about 11% of reduction of carbon footprint in the textile sector, assuming a number of considerations. And in the cosmetics, we can reach about more than 80% reduction in carbon footprint using enzymes. So according to assumption and some experimental laboratory data. The next one, Sarah. And well, so ITV team will later on describe that we are trying to target consumers, because consumer, we know that the value ecological solution versus still prioritize product effectiveness. So the consumer, we like to have ecological solution, but if they work. And also we are aware about this, that the consumer needs to have all this product information. So every time we record all the information and product data sets to have traceability and to later on to be integrated into the so-called digital product passport. Sorry. The next one. And well, this is as a summary. So as a legacy of the project, we not only offer to the consumer this product that I summarized before, but also we have a number of biological assets and digital tools that we were able to screen or to deliver to the scientific community, and even online platform to identify enzymes that are relevant to this sector for future scientists and industry people. And the next one. And yeah, just to finalize, so this is a photo of this some of the group member. And if you would like to see more information about the project, so here is the web page and also a QR code, and then that's all. And I think with this, I think I finished the presentation, Sana. I think it's the last one. Yeah. So if any questions, so just feel free at the end of the webinar or within the chat. So thank you. I cannot listen, Sarah.
Sorry, I was muted. I didn't notice. So I would say thank you very much, Bonanno, for presenting the project. And as you were mentioning, for the people that are joining our webinar, you can use the chat or the Q&A tool to make some questions that we will answer at the end of the webinar. Now I will go forward with our with the presentation of our technical methodologies that we use for the impact assessment within this project. And we will start with Maria Elena, project manager at Consorzio Italbiotec, who was also responsible for carrying out the choice experiment analysis within our project. So Maria Elena, the floor is yours. When you need to change the slide, just say next, and I will change them for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah, for the introduction. Yes, so we can change the slide. Okay, perfect. So let me start with a question. When you buy a new product, like for example, a laundry detergent, what drives your decision? So is it, for example, the price, the brand, the eco-label? Is it the performance of the product? So this to mention that every day we make choice based on a mix of specific characteristics, and understanding how people make this trade-off is essential, not just for the design of better products, but also for informing evidence policies and sustainable innovation. And that's where choice experiment, which is the methodology that we use in the study, can help and can be involved. So next, please. So a choice experiment is a state preference method using economics and social science. And this method allows to quantify preference. So to put a real and quantitative value on a person preference. This method is based on a random utility theory, which assumes that people choose the option that gives them the highest utility, even if they don't are conscious of that. How does it work? So we present participants with a set of hypothetical products, each with different combination of characteristics, and ask them to choose which one they prefer. So after that, by analyzing this choice in a statistically point of view, we can estimate how much people value each features. So, for example, how much they are willing to pay for a sustainable packaging option. Next, please. Okay, so in this slide, I just want to summarize what are the main components of the choice experiment study. Next. Okay, so we start with the attributes. The attributes are the key characteristics or features of the good or service under evaluation. So the service that we want to study and to analyze in our study. Each attribute is designed to capture a specific dimension of consumer preference or product quality. So I want to give you a concrete example of that, referring to the case study of detergent, which I will talk about in more detail in my next presentation. For example, the attributes are the efficacy in stain removal, the recommended washing temperature, the packaging, the surfactant, but also the price. The price is an essential attribute for implementing the choice experiment methodology, because without the price, we can't really estimate a concrete value or understand how much more or less a consumer is willing to pay for a specific feature. The levels are the range of variation within each attribute, representing the different possible state or intensity of the attribute that respondents might consider during the decision-making process. So, for example, related to the efficacy in stain removal, we have the standard removal, which is the standard detergent ability to clean a common stain. But we also have the stubborn stain removal, which is a more strong cleaning performance. Next, please. Okay. After that, we have the alternative. The alternatives are a combination of attributes that enable the development of a compelling product concept. So, for example, in this case, the product A and the product B. I want to highlight that it's very important and essential to include also a no choice option among the different product options, because it helps recreate a real life situation. Because, for example, at the supermarket, if I don't find the product that I'm interested in, I just don't buy anything. So this is very important. After that, we have the choice set. The choice set are a group of alternatives shown to respondent. So, a recap. The different scenarios, which are the choice set, are combined with multiple alternative and product features, which are the attributes, expressed with different degrees, which are the levels. Each respondent sees several choice set and choose the preferred alternative from each. By analyzing this choice, we are able to estimate the relative importance of the different attributes. Next, please. Okay, so in this slide, I make an overview of the most important things to consider when you want to make a choice experiment study. First of all, the scope of the study. This is very important and crucial because all the other elements of the study depend on it. So you have to be clear on what is your scope. After that, selection of the products, but also the attributes and levels. So choosing the target product is essential for have reliable results. The product needs to respond to neutrality criteria as much as possible. So, for example, would be a product that is used equally by all individuals, regardless of socioeconomic and demographic condition, or other type of aspects. For example, shower gel is a basic hygiene of individuals of any gender and age, or for example, unisex clothing or towels and so on. In case you have to study a dishomogeneous product, such as a lipstick that is mainly used by a female population, this should be considered when selecting the sample and also when you analyze the results, because in this way you can avoid the falsification biases. After that, it's very important to define an adequate number of and type of attributes and levels characterizing the target product. And this is very important to avoid bias, to make a bias-reduced study, because a small number of attributes and level would not take into consideration the most relevant product characteristic, but on the other hand, a vast number of that could create a complex set of choice, and this can risk a cognitive bias. Linked to this, we have also the choice of the number of choice set, which is the third crucial element in the choice experiment design, to reduce the potential bias related to the decrease of interest and commitment. And considering the study evidence, 8, 9 choice set are to be considered okay for a low risk bias. After that, we have to create the survey. The survey will not include just the choice set of the purchasing choice, but also other type of information. So, for example, additional questionnaire, additional elements. It's best to take into consideration also the socio-demographic and economic aspect of the sample, but also, for example, the shopping habits and the belief of the sample. These are very important, and I will talk about this later in my next presentation. After that, the survey will be distributed to all the representative sample of the target population, and we have to choose an analyze model to estimate that allows to estimate parameters that represent utility associated with each attribute. Sorry. Okay, this is just a brief overview of the key point, but if you want to have more insight about that, more information, how to set the study, what are the important things to consider during this choice, you can read my work that you can find in the slide. Okay, next. Okay, what can we learn from a choice experiment? So first of all, we can estimate the willingness to pay, and this is how much people are willing to pay for specific features, for specific characteristics. So for example, how much extra someone would pay for a detergent with, for example, a sustainable packaging. Linked to that, we also can understand trade-off. So how much people value one attribute compared to another. For example, if for a consumer, it's more important a sustainable packaging, or for example, the efficacy of the products. After that, we can also perform market segmentation, because identifying different groups based on preference can help to understand, for example, the difference. This difference can be based on socio-demographic or economic aspect or belief or habits. For example, the young population can be more are able to accept more easier a sustainable product, respect, for example, the oldest one, and so on. Finally, we can also simulate real-world outcomes, such as, for example, the impact of introducing a new eco-friendly products on the market. And these insights are very important because help us to design better products, but also to define market strategies and also to underline public policies based on what people truly value, what they really want in the market. So this is just a brief overview. After that, I will have a presentation where I go more into detail about our key study focus on detergent. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria Elena, for the presentation. Beside the social part, I would like to go forward now with an explanation on how the life cycle assessment works. And for that, I leave the floor to Maria Ciotti, which is our PhD, working both at Consorzio Italbiotec and University of Chalmers.
Thank you, Sara. We can start with the first slide. Okay, so today I will give you a brief presentation of what life cycle assessment is and why we use it for this specific case of development of early stage technology. So the life cycle assessment is nowadays probably the most common environmental assessment to evaluate what are the impact on the environment of a product, of a production process. So as you can see from this simplified picture, every product have a life cycle that goes from the raw material through the production process, different steps that bring the product to the customer. There is the use phase, and then there is the disposal or recycling phase. So when the first life cycle of the product ends, and this end is actually not really ending the process when we talk about the life cycle assessment, because we always have this product design that kind of connect our process. So in order to have always this cycle. So what we can do with life cycle assessment is to evaluate what are the impact of the entire life cycle of a product or just a part of it. So for example, we could choose to analyze only some steps of this cycle and to evaluate what's the impact of the environment. So if we go on, we can see that the life cycle assessment is a methodology that is composed of 4 main steps. The first step is the goal and scope, and this step is the most important because it's where we set the basis of our assessment. Indeed, in this stage, the LCA practitioner and the product developers can talk and can decide what is the goal of the LCA. So why they are developing a life cycle assessment, why they are interested in knowing the environmental impact of the product, and what are the aspects they are most interested in. Once the goal of the study is set, we can define the scope of the study. So if the goal, we can say that assess the what of the study, the scope assess the how. So with the scope definition, we define how we are going to model our system in order to answer the question that we set in the goal. So 2 of the main aspects of the scope definition are the functional unit and system boundaries. Functional unit is our unit of measure. So is the flow, is the component that we define has the flow to which we are gonna define all our impact, all our mass flow, etc. So it can be, for example, 1 kilogram of a product. So all the impact that we're going to calculate are going to be referred to the production of 1 kilogram of this specific product. And the functional units always have to define the function of the system. So For example, with the specific case of the detergent, we have to define a functional unit that's define the function of our product, not only the amount of the product. But Valentina will explain that later. So once the functional unit is set, we define the system boundaries. That is, which step of a product lifecycle we want to include in our study. So if we want to do a cradle to grave, so include the entire life cycle, or if we want to do a gate to gate, so for example, only analyze the production process. Once the goal and scope are set, we can go to the second stage of life cycle assessment. There is the life cycle inventory. In this stage, we collect all the data that refer to our product, and that basically lead us to the final measurements, so our functional unit. In this stage, we can use different kind of data depending on the availability. We can have primary data that are data coming directly from our partners, for example, so that they are specifically referred to our process. We can have a secondary data that come from example from literature, from database that still refer to the specific process, or we can have proxy data. So proxy data are more used when we don't have availability of more precise data, and can be, for example, a similar process to our that can still be assumed to be similar enough to have a good enough, let's say, result in our study, or a similar enough chemical or a precursor of our chemical, etc. Once we collected all the inventory, we can go to the third stage, that is the life cycle impact assessment, in which we transform all our mass flows into environmental impact. And then the fourth and last stage is the interpretation of the results and the conclusion, when we can analyze what were the results of our study, what we can learn from it, and then we set the conclusion. If we go on with the next slide, for example, in this slide, I wanted to show you what we need, what we mean with inventory data. So you can see that from each step of our process, so let's say this blue box is only one single step that can be mixing of ingredients, let's say. We need to have all the input, so everything that is needed to activate this process, to make it happen. That can be energy, raw material, process chemicals, and then we have to know all the output of our process. That can be emission to air, emission to water, waste, and of course our study product, and in case there are some byproduct. So this is what we need for each step of our process. Once we have all this flow, so for example, emission to air, emission to water, we can translate them. So if we see in the next slide, those are called elementary flows. So it's basically flows that of substances that leave our system. So they are not anymore inside our product, but goes outside our system. So they go to the environment. They are called elementary flows, and through some characterization factors, they are translated into impact categories, so into environmental impact. So for example, for climate change, we know that different components in the atmosphere can contribute on a different level to climate change. So each of these flows is going to translate with a different coefficient into CO2 equivalent. So CO2 equivalent is our common unit of measure for the climate change. So in this way, we know how our elementary flow can contribute to the specific environmental impact category. We have many impact categories. They can vary depending on the method we decide to use, and also on the goal, so depending on what we are interested in to know. And of course, each elementary flow can contribute to more than one impact category. if we want to also show our results maybe to a larger public, or to simplify a bit all these results, we can also aggregate these impact categories in 3 main protection areas that are human health, natural environment, and natural resources. So just to conclude, okay, of course, after this impact assessment, we can have, of course, our conclusion and environmental analysis. So here you can see a bit also on the left, how the 4 different stages of the LCA interact within each other. Indeed, LCA is not a linear method, but it's a method that keeps building on itself. So while developing the assessment, it's necessary to change the goal and scope. It's necessary to change the inventory, because it's a learning process itself. So during the development of the method, we still probably have to adapt it to best fit our goal and our system. What is difficult when we talk about early stage technology, so technology that are still not on the market, that are not active in a production system. So for example, when they are just assessment done in the lab, is that we have a high uncertainty level. So everything we do, it's most of the time is really provisory. We are not sure about something. It can work, it cannot. This is the best option we obtain until now, but we don't know how much it can improve still, maybe in the future. Or there is the, for example, lack of data. Sometimes simply we don't have all the data that are necessary. Also, you can imagine electricity consumption in a lab scale is not the same as industrial production. So these also assumptions can be really difficult to make sometimes. The processes are not optimized. So as Manolo also explained before, this is a project where enzymes were developed, but the time needed to also improve the enzymes or improve the process, optimize, make it more efficient, most of the time doesn't fit with the project. So of course, we could have, for example, emission that can be optimized in a larger scale production. All these different difficulties that we can face are, of course, making also interpretation more challenging, because it's important not to go straight into a simple result, but it's important to be aware of all the limitations that an early stage technology assessment present. So why we still do LCA for this kind of technology? So there are different advantages of the LCA for early stage technology, and I have them in the last slide. Sarah, please, can you change? Okay, so the first of all, as I already mentioned, is to optimize the process. So we can identify what are the environmental hotspots of our process in order to know where the process needs to be implemented. It needs to be optimized. A second point is, for example, also what we are doing today. So communication. It's important to have data that can clearly and transparently show what we are stating, what we present our product, for example, as a sustainable product or as a sustainable alternative to a already commercial product. Another point is also the interaction with the stakeholders. So what we can do with LCA is, for example, also to evaluate some scenarios that are not really happening. So something that we didn't test. So we are doing some hypotheses of something that could happen, and we can see what will be the impact of that. So in this way, we also have new data that can justify, for example, the development of our technology, the upscaling of our technology. And the last is also like the positioning. So, for example, for this scale, we with FuturEnzyme want to provide new sustainable products. And with this kind of data, we can also be transparent, be more clear about what are the impact. And also in this way, we can also, for example, attract partners for the implementation of the process or investments for further development also of the process. So all these, let's say, aspects can go together and justify why it's still important to analyze early stage technology when we still have a lot of impact in possibility of changing the process, of improving it, because there is a lot of flexibility still at the early stage of technology. So on my point, I'm done. I hope I gave you a clear explanation of what LCA is in order for you to be more able to understand what Valentina will present later with our results. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. With your presentation, we are now closing our theoretical background for this webinar. So it is now time to present our case study. As explained by Manolo, part of our research in FutureEnzyme was focused on finding new enzyme for detergent that, for example, could improve the efficiency of stain removal or reduce the washing temperature. So now I would like to leave again the floor to Maria Elena to present the case study of the results of the choice experiment analysis. And then at the end, I will leave the floor to Valentina for presenting the result of the LCA. So Maria Elena, the floor is yours again. I'll go to the next one. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, okay. So now I will present the detergent case study. So we applied the choice experiment methodology in a real-world study focused on sustainable laundry detergent. So I show this graphic to say that we start with a pilot study of 44 participants to refine the design, and then we conduct the full experimental design with 300 for European consumers. So a quite big sample. The aim of our study was to understand which detergent characteristics are most important to consumer, with a particular focus on sustainable characteristic. I will not go into detail on this aspect because we already covered them in the previous presentation. But the features that we consider were packaging, surfactant, washing temperature in terms of energy saving, and washing performance, and of course the price. The product test was a laundry liquid detergent of 1.5 liter. Since scientific studies have shown that this is the type of product most often chosen in a supermarket, and so it is most familiar to the consumers. The survey included not only the choice related to detergent, but also a section aimed at collecting information about the characteristic of the sample, with a focus on social, demographic, and economic aspect, as well as shopping and product usage habits, and also attitudes and belief towards sustainability. These factors are very important because can significantly influence their responses and the results, as I will explain you later. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So let's take a quick look at the sample. As you can see in the slide, participants came from across all Europe, but mostly come from Italy, Spain, Germany, and Portugal. The 65% of the sample were women, and the most were between 55 and 54 years old. Sorry, 25 and 54 years old. I added also that over half held a master's degree or higher, and the majority earn between a 20 or a 60,000 per year of income. So our sample was active, educated, and are often responsible of household products purchase. So this is a relevant target group for our study. Next slide, please. Okay. The results clearly reflect the trend that consumers are willing to pay a premium for more sustainable products, regardless of the type of attributes. So a general interest in sustainable features. The highest willingness to pay was for reduced plastic packagings, but followed by recycled and recyclable plastic. So within the packaging category, a clear performance emerged for the plastic consumption compared to the other one, suggests that consumers perceive overall plastic reduction as a more impactful solution for environmental sustainability. And in general, consumers perceive the overall sustainable of packaging as a more impactful aspect related to the other characteristics. Related to surfactant, the difference in consumer preference was particularly relevant. In particular, the willingness to pay for sustainable surfactant was nearly double than for the reduction in surfactant. This highlights that probably consumer might associate reduced surfactant with a potential compromise in product effectiveness, making renewable surfactant more appealing, as they align with both sustainability goals but also expectation for the product performance. A very strange result regarding the efficacy of the products and the washing temperature. So attributes related to washing temperature were not among the highest value features, suggesting that consumers prioritize other type of characteristics over the energy savings associated with a lower washing temperature. This trend may reflect probably a lack of consumer confidence in cold washing, even when an equivalent performance is assured. This indicates that while consumers acknowledge the indirect impact of lower washing temperature on sustainability and cost, and for this reason, they may find it harder to understand the effect benefits of this aspect, so of a lower temperature in washing, in the washing process. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, perfect. This just to mention that our sample is know perfectly that is very important the consumer behavior in the sustainable aspect of consumer products, and also that the consumer products have a crucial role in the in increase the sustainability of our world. So I just want also to mention that our sample was mainly responsible to purchasing the detergent. This is very important because it means that the result of our study was valuable. Next slide, please. Okay. Interesting when we ask directly to our sample what are the main important characteristics when they decide to choose and to buy a detergent. The results shown that they say that the most important things is the priority for them is the product performance. This is very important because their actual choice show that they were willingness to pay more for sustainable packaging and performance, and the performance is not so important. So what does it mean? What does it mean that in theory, for them, performance is very important, but in the actual purchasing choice, they prefer, for example, a more sustainable packaging, a more sustainable surfactant, and so on. And performance is less important. This result could be related to the presence of what is called attitude intention behavior gap, which refers to a discrepancy between the state value of an individual or organization and their actual action. So, for example, a consumer can generally express a preference for attributes such as the performance and price in explicit survey, but when they have to choose in a survey what are their willingness to pay for specific sustainable related features, there is a divergence between their priorities and their real choice. Another important aspect to take in consideration related to this result are that the lower willingness to pay for the efficacy compared to sustainability might also comes from what we call a baseline assumption bias, which refers to the fact that where consumer say that a consumer expect a certain level of effectiveness in all products, and for this reason they are less inclined to pay a premium for it. So this is very important aspect, and this aspect have to be studied more in depth in the next study to understand how to overcome this attitude intention behavior gap, and to understand more why consumer have a theory and actual different behavior in their choice. Okay, next. Okay, thank you very much. So, what are the analysis of our result in terms of segmentation analysis, as I mentioned before? So, first of all, as you can see, Spain show the highest willingness to pay across all attributes, and on the other hand, the Portugal sample has a lowest willingness to pay value overall. The analysis of socioeconomic and demographic aspect reveal also generational differences in willingness to pay for sustainable products attributes. So, in particular, the older consumers willingness to invest in both effectiveness and environmental features, while younger consumers prioritize specific sustainability aspects, such as, for example, the renewable surfactant and also the more sustainable packaging. Okay, baby boomers exhibit the highest willingness to pay across most attributes, reflecting a strong preference for integrating the effectiveness and the sustainability. This finding was a little bit unexpected, because previous research has clearly suggested that young generation tend to be more environmental conscious. However, this result can be related to the fact that baby boomers or older population have a greater financial stability and purchasing power. So, also for this reason, the the income analysis clearly highlights that there is a positive correlation between the higher income levels and the willingness to pay. The analysis related to the gender, on the other hand, shown that women show a higher willingness to pay for features such as, for example, packaging, sustainability, and also renewable surfactant. This may reflect both traditional and contemporary gender rule, with women often being key household decision makers and the more socially tuned to community and environmental impact. In fact, different studies, different previous studies confirm that women typically exhibit stronger pro-environment attitudes and behaviors. On the other hand, men show a slightly higher willingness to pay for features like, for example, the energy efficiency. This may reflect their interest in technical efficiency and cost saving, aligned with more pragmatic or utility-focused preference. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Finally, what are the implications for business and what are the implications for policy? So it is very important that to invest in eco-design by prioritizing packaging solutions that help to reduce material use and which consumers perceive as high value, and also develop and communicate environmental friendly formulation, particularly those with bio-based and biodegradable surfactant. Another important aspect is integrate sustainability without compromise performance, because companies should ensure that environmental gains do not come at the expense of cleaning power, and that this is important that companies have the ability to communicate this aspect in a very good and clear way. Finally, it's important to develop more targeted communication and product line that align with the values and prioritize a specific consumer segment to emphasize both ecological but also functional attributes. So this is just a brief overview of our work, but if you want more specific and more in-depth information, you can you can read our article and yes, and have all the information we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Elena, for the presentation. We will now go toward the closures of our webinar with our last presentation by Valentina Castellani. Before going on with the presentation, I would like to remind the audience that if you have any question, you can use either the chat or the Q&A that you can find in Zoom, so that at the end of the presentation, we will answer your questions. So thank you very much. And Valentina, the floor is yours. I go to the next slide.
Thank you, Sarah. I have the least fancy part of the presentation, but I will try to make it quite short and to drive you to the results that we will show. So basically, as Maria introduced before, what we did firstly was to analyze the environmental impact of benchmark detergents, so an average detergent on the market. The formulation was modeled following previous studies and double-checked with our business partner, Enkel. And basically, the functional unit, so the unit, the reference unit for our study is washing 7 kilograms of clothes in a dishwasher with a single cycle at 40 degrees temperature and using a washing dose of 45 millimeters of detergent. What you see here is the contribution of the different life cycle phases. So from the production of the ingredients to the manufacturing of the detergents, the packaging, the distribution, the use, so the washing cycle, and the end of life, that in this case is wastewater treatment. So treatment of the water that comes out from the washing machine. Sorry, before I think I said dishwasher, which obviously is not the case. As Maria mentioned before, the life cycle assessment has a peculiar feature of considering a wide set of environmental problems. So what you see at the bottom of this graph is the list of impact categories. So the list of indicators representing different environmental problems, of course, including climate change, the use of resources, potential effect in terms of eutrophication of water bodies, and so on. What I would like to show you today is that even if looking at different environmental problems, so looking at different indicators, what we see is a strong prevalence of the impact of the use phase, so the washing cycle, over the other phases. The second most important is the wastewater treatment, and for some categories, the production of the ingredients. But I would say that the washing cycle is definitely the most important part of the life cycle in terms of being a driver of environmental impacts, several environmental impacts. The reason behind this result is that, as you may imagine, the washing cycle includes the use of energy and the use of water. But here is the use of energy that is mostly driving the impact. And Sarah, if you can go to the next slide. Okay, as mentioned before by Maria, we also have the possibility to aggregate the results of the different indicators with two steps called normalization and weighting. What you see here is what we obtain from these two steps. So the total impact score expressed in points, micro points in this case. But what I would like to show is that when we aggregate the impact, 70% of the total impact of the washing cycle, so washing 7 kilograms of clothes in our washing machine, is generated by the use phase, so the washing cycle. This may, let's say, suggest a first result in comparison with the choice experiment. So we don't see packaging here. It's really small. It's less than 5%, if I remember correctly. So we can already guess that acting on the packaging probably will not change dramatically the impact of our product, of the life cycle of our product. Next, please. And there should be one before. Oh,
I cannot see it. Maybe it's
description
later.
of scenarios was there this morning. Okay, anyway, this
No, it's
one.
not
No? I'm sorry, Sarah, something went wrong. Anyway, I will do it without a slide, no problem. What we defined as potential scenarios for looking at how different solutions, including enzymes, can help to reduce the impact of the detergent that we are analyzing. We analyzed 5 scenarios. Some of them were discussed directly with the technical partner Enkel. So what can we expect to obtain by the use of enzymes? Some of them were more reflecting the options analyzed in the choice experience. So scenario number 1 is based on the hypothesis of being able to reduce the amount of surfactants, so some of the ingredients that allow a good result in terms of stain removal. So reducing the amount of surfactants by 10%, thanks to the use of new enzymes, and increasing a bit, plus 0.5%, the quantity of enzymes in the product. Sorry. So in this scenario number 1, we have a slightly different composition of the product in terms of ingredients. So we modified the inventory for the ingredient part, and the rest remained the same. Scenario 2, the hypothesis behind scenario 2 is that thanks to the use of enzymes and with the same quantity of enzymes, but improved type of enzymes, we could have a smaller washing dose, so using less detergent because it's more efficient. The reduction of washing dose in this scenario is we have 2 options: a reduction by 5% or by 10%. The third scenario is more based on the choice experiment options. So here we make an hypothesis of reducing the washing temperature. If you remember, the baseline is 40 degrees, which is the temperature at which current enzymes activate. With different type of enzymes, we assume that we could have a washing temperature of 30 degrees or even lower, 20 degrees. Scenario number 4, it's again based on the choice experience, and the hypothesis here is using having a reusable packaging, a refillable packaging, let's say. So in the case for which you buy the first time the detergent at the supermarket with a normal packaging, and then you can refill the packaging with a plastic pouch, for example. So basically we assume the reuse for 10 times, which is based on previous studies, the average. And of course, in this case, we will have the first bottle and then the refill pouches that we can use in the next reused cycle. Scenario number 5, again, based on the options of the choice experience, is the one modeling the effect of using a recycled packaging. So in this case, we have exactly the same package as in the baseline, sorry, in terms of type of bottles and materials. The difference is that the bottle, which is in polyethylene, is not made of virgin polyethylene, but of recycled polyethylene. So I'm really sorry about it. I take a bottle of water, just a second. Okay, let's try again. So these are the 5 scenarios with several options for scenario 2, 3, and 4 that we analyzed. Here again, you can see the total impact, so the aggregated impact across all the indicators considered in the study. Sorry, I forgot to mention that the analysis was done using the environmental footprint method 3.1, which is the method recommended by the European Commission for Life Cycle Assessment Studies, which includes 16 indicators, which are the one that you saw before. So again, here you have the total impact, so the aggregated score, because it's easier to have a look and to compare with the aggregated score. And as you can see, some of the scenarios analyzed, most of the scenarios analyzed, I would say, are able to grant only a small reduction of the total impact compared to the baseline. Very limited effect. And I would say with the level of uncertainty that we have on this model based on the uncertainties that Maria introduced before, the TRL level, the need to choose an average product and so on, the effects of most of the scenarios analyzed is really negligible. The only one that shows a real effect is scenario 3 in the 2 options, washing temperature reduced to 30 degrees or to 20 degrees. So, and to be honest, this is not surprising, because if you remember the first graph, 70% of our impact comes from the washing phase and from the need to use electricity, which is basically the need to use electricity to heat the water. So, and next, please. Okay, and this is only to, I know it's quite impossible to read it, but just to show you that this is across all the indicators, with, of course, more effect in the indicators like ionizing radiation that are more linked to the use of electricity. But anyway, this is the only scenario that can ensure a reduction of impact across all the indicators and a reduction of impact in total as an aggregated score. And next, please, Sarah. I would say this is not surprising. This was expected. Usually, when you run an LCA study and you see that 70% of the impact comes from a specific activity, you already know that the only way to reduce the impact of that product is to act on the driver of the highest share of the impact. So we can try to drive conclusions also from the other ones. The main conclusion I would say is that scenarios with reusable packaging or recycled packaging, so scenarios acting on packaging, show negligible changes compared to the baseline. So probably it's not, it's not the most effective way to reduce the impact of this kind of product. And let me add, this is not uncommon. When you interview consumers or even companies, some companies that are less aware of how LCA works and how impacts are distributed along their production chain are really usually interested in acting on packaging, because packaging is perceived by consumer as a big environmental problem. This comes from some campaigns done in previous years mainly. And it's not false. We know that packaging is a problem, is an environmental problem, because consumed materials sometimes we have over packaging, and then we have the problem of a high volume of materials that need to be disposed or recycled if we are lucky. But if we take a wider perspective and look at the whole impact along the whole life cycle of our product, in most of the cases, packaging is not acting on packaging is not the solution. It's one of the easiest ways sometimes. It's one of the way that can encounter more easily the perception of the consumers, but unfortunately, it's not so effective from the environmental point of view. Coming back to the results of our scenarios, the reduction of surfactants, again, in the current option that we analyze, seems to be not so effective, but this may also be linked to the fact that the reduction share was not so high, currently 5%. Results may change in case of a different scenario. So in case we have the possibility to reduce more the amount of surfactants compared to the baseline. Reducing the laundry unit, so the quantity of the detergent per washing cycle, may have some impacts if the reduction is equal or even higher than 10%. And this again comes back to the results of the impact of the baseline product, because if you remember, production of ingredients was the second most important activity for some impact categories. And as said before, the scenario with the highest environmental effect is the one with the lower level of preference in the choice experience. How to deal with it? Maybe the message that we can take as a take-home message for today is that we need to learn how to communicate the environmental impact of products to consumer to really help informed choices. Because if we are not able to communicate what really matters for our product, we will not be able to communicate the effectiveness of our choices in terms of environmental strategies for improving the environmental profile of our products. And that's it. Thank you, Sarah.
Very interesting results. I'll stop sharing my screen to read the question. So our fourth question is about the choice experiment. What criteria are used to set the values for reduction and price? Maria Elena, you are on mute.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Okay. What criteria? For reduction, for value for reduction, we try to see other type of detergent that are present in the market, and we try to take in consideration these values to set our attributes levels. And this is also a key point for the price. The only thing that I want to highlight that we try to consider relate to the price, a common price that can be representative for all European countries. But we know that the real price in the different countries can be a little bit different. For example, between I don't know, Italy, Spain, Germany, and so on. But yes, the main aspect was to see the market, see the characteristics and sustainable labels that detergent have in the supermarket, for example, and we take this point as to set our study. Yes.
Thank you, Maria Elena. Another question for you. Would it be possible to calculate how much a consumer would be willing to pay for a more ecological, greener, and functional alternative based on their salary? For example, a person earning 20,000 euros might be willing to pay 30 cents more, while someone with a higher salary might be willing to pay up to €1 more.
Yes, this is very interesting. This is very interesting point. Yes, we try to combine the results considering the income and also the willingness to pay, because, for example, a consumer could have a real interesting in buy a sustainable product, but can be do it because, for example, have a not high income. Yes, what we try to do is to see the results and try to make manually this combination, not from a statistical point of view, but yes, using more sophisticated and specific type of analysis, it could be possible to make a more specific comparison of these aspects.
Thank you, Mariela. Last question, still for you, I think. Do some consumers prefer to see the product before making a decision? And if that's the case, how is this taken into account in choice experiments?
Okay, I can say that our main consideration was about the level. So we try in our question, in our survey, to include the labels of the products that we include in our survey, because we saw that when consumers have a visual information, it's easier for them to make a choice. From this point of view, we can say that we try to make available a visual aspect of the product. I don't know if I answer to your question, but yes, this is the point.
Thank you, Maria Elena. For me, it was very clear. We are a little bit behind the schedule, so I would close the webinar now if there are no more questions. But although the project is about to end, you can still reach out if you have any question or any concern, or if you're interested in knowing more. Marilena linked also some publication related to the chess experiment if you want to read more about that. So we also have 2 more surveys open for the chess experiment, one for the cosmetic and one for the textile. So if you would like to contribute to our final studies or for these 2 new products, we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn or go to our website to answer the survey. It would be really appreciated to have your contribution. So thank you very much to all of you. We will upload the webinar on YouTube probably. So you will have also the time to review some part of it, to review the slides, and eventually also take the emails of the speakers if you want to ask some questions. Thank you very much for everyone. First of all, the speakers for being here, but also for the audience. It was really nice to hosting this meeting, this webinar, probably the last one of FutureEnzyme, at least during its lifetime. So thank you again, and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you. You do, ciao.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.